Wow, we just came through a solar event for the record books, at least for recent records. That's pretty cool. Aurora visible as far south here on my side of the globe as Puerto Rico, and I heard over in Europe you can see the aurora in Greece. So pretty cool, and a lot going on there. I recently did a video, and someone asked me. I did it on HF propagation and some sites that I use. And I was asked if I could go a little deeper. Well, I'll go a little deeper, but I got to tell you, bear with me. I'm not an expert. HF propagation is probably the part of the hobby that I'm most interested in. I love it. To me, it is what I'm all about as far as the hobby itself. It's so interesting. And for someone to do a true video on HF propagation in correlation with the sun, it would probably take an hour or more to really go in depth. I'm no expert, but I'll tell you just a couple of things that I really look at and kind of explain where we're at right now in solar cycle 25. People are asking, what now? What's going to happen now? We just had this thing, and when will we be back to normal? Well, what do you want to call normal? But I'm going to go over a few things, kind of give you some insight of how I see it from experience and what I've experienced in the past. And hopefully this will answer a few of your questions. And I'm sure there's going to be some experts out there that probably have better answers than me. Throw them in the comments. I don't mind that. But yeah, let's take a deeper look at checking out sites for information on solar weather as it affects HF radio conditions. Stick around. Okay, so I was recently asked to kind of elaborate more on reading the values of solar weather from sites like SolarHam or even the NOAA site. There's a lot of others out there, some good sites out there. So listen, I'm no expert, not at all, but HF propagation is really the part of the hobby that I love the most and I'm really interested in. 50 years ago when I was 12 years old, I built my first shortwave receiver from a kit. And it was pretty heavy into shortwave listening, and I still am for my whole life. Back then, it was the broadcast days, and I could listen to shortwave radio and broadcast stations around the world, and it's just something I've been into pretty heavy my entire life. And then after that, to become a ham radio operator. And I've always had a keen interest in propagation and the sun and following the solar cycles and what's going on. I've watched over the years, in shortwave radio, I remember when there was times where I could get up in the morning and on the 25 meter band and hear Asian and Australia stations on shortwave broadcast stations. And then I remember they'd fade away and then years would go past and they'd come back. And what was going on was it was the solar cycle. And now that we're on the upswing of solar cycle 25, which should be peaking next year, same thing. Things are getting really great. Now we had this amazing, what we'll call solar event here, and people are wondering what's going to happen now. Are we coming downhill? Are we going uphill? No, it's not. Let's just kind of go over what happens when we get a solar storm and what's going on. Let's go back and real quickly review. I've got some other videos that explain this, and you probably know this, but radio skips off of the ionosphere. And the ionosphere is made up of the D, the E, the F1, and the F2 layers. And what generally happens for us, especially during the daytime for HF operators, is our signals go right through the D and the E layer, skip off the F layers, and come back down to what's known as skip. And we talk long distances on HF radio because of that. So when we get something like a geomagnetic storm or a solar storm, whatever you want to call it, this coronal mass ejection coming at us, the solar wind speed picks up. Well, our ionosphere acts as a shield to kind of protect us from the sun. And what does this do? Well, it does a lot. It charges, it gets very highly charged, and it, also we go through a short period of time where HF radio is just in bad shape. That's mostly because of the D layer. The D layer gets so charged that instead of letting the radio waves that we use in HF pass through it, it absorbs these. And there's a good way, another part of this, let's just take SolarHam for instance. Go take a look there, and you can look and you'll see a prediction, the D absorption prediction. We're going to talk about D-layer absorption. There's a chart in there that'll show you, and it's basically from 0 to 30 megahertz. And when we get what's called a radio blackout, you'll see a big blob of red there. Well, that's because the D layer is absorbing our signals, and we're not getting anything. So from there, the D layer absorbing our radio signals, we have a radio blackout. It's not always complete blackout. If you look at that, and you can look at this prediction on the site of the D layer absorption, you'll see maybe that it's only absorbing, let's just say 12 and 10 meters, and you can still get out on 40 or 20 or what have you. But it's something to kind of learn about and look at, is D-layer absorption. It's an interesting part of it, and I didn't elaborate on that in my last video, but I will. Another thing are sunspots and the solar flux index. These numbers, as we go higher and higher into the solar cycle, the sun produces more sunspots. And what happens from those sunspots? Well, solar flares, coronal mass ejections, things happen. But the thing about sunspots and these activity of the sun's coming at us is the solar flux index. I'm going to simplify solar flux index. We're just going to say that's how charged the F layer is and how more reflective the F layer is. Now, typically the SFI, like let's just say in solar minimum down there, it can go down as low as like a little over 63, 64, but it can go as high. The SFI number can get higher and higher and higher. I think if we looked at 2019 up into 2020, we were hovering around 70 for the SFI number, the solar flux index number. And now we look at we're over 150. Well, what's going on here? And that's a good number to look at. When you look at the SFI and you see this number's 100, 150 plus, things are going to be good, and they're going to be good for a while. Because what's going on is, because of the number of sunspots, that's another thing to look at, is how many sunspots. More sunspots, the better. These sunspots increase as they send energy to our Earth, and our F layer, or our ionosphere F layer, is protecting us from it. It gets more charged, and the SFI number gets higher. So that's another good thing to look at. Higher SFI number, the better. Now, let's kind of just talk in general. People are thinking, wow, well, it's going to really suck now. We've gone through this or whatever. Let me tell you something. We're not at solar maximum yet. That's going to happen next year. We're probably going to go through some more times like this, and this is going to happen again, and we'll see it happening again. So is that a bad thing? No, it's actually a very good thing, because it's baking our F layer and making it stronger and stronger and increasing the SFI. It's like we're putting Earth in the oven being the sun, and baking it. We're going to create a mass, something that's nice for HF radio. So what we got to do is just got to grin and bear it as we go through these periods of solar storms and the D-layer absorption and wind, solar wind making things noisy. We gotta get through it. But just know that SFI, the solar flux index, we want to keep that as high as possible, and just soldier through it as things get better, because they will get better. It's a long time before they'll get bad again. We won't be in solar minimum again to 2032, 2033. That's a long ways from now. So over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years even, radio is going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome. We'll get through this thing. Things are going to be fine. And we'll see more events, more solar flares, more days where, the bands are not that great, but a lot more days where bands are awesome. So, hey, bring it. Let's let the sun bring some more. Let's get the SFI up as high as we can possibly get it and keep it there. And let's enjoy HF radio. That was short and sweet, just to add a little bit more to it. I know, like I said, the last few days, bands have been horrible. And like I said, I'm not an expert at this. I just find it very interesting. And I'm trying to just, in layman's terms, throw a couple more things to look at in there. Take a look at SFI, Solar Flux Index. Do a little research on it. And also look at D-layer absorption. That's something we just went through pretty massively over the last few days. And I'm sure you saw a lot of those charts that radio blackout and what was going on with our ionosphere. It wasn't pretty, but hey, at the end of the day, This too shall pass, and things are going to be incredible again. Hey, if you're really an expert on this, or you know more than I do, don't criticize. Just put it down there. Give us some links. Give us some thoughts. How about this? If you've done a video, or if you have a site or a blog or whatever you want to promote it, and I'll pin it at the top, and we'll try to get more people there. We're all here to learn. I'm learning as well. It's been a lifetime of learning for radio for me, and I love it. But like I said, I'm just an average guy. I'm an engineer, but I'm a structural engineer. I just know how to pound steel and design things that are made out of metal. Not an RF engineer. I think if I was, probably wouldn't be as passionate about it. I love it as a hobby. It's really awesome, and I love learning about it. And I hope you do too. And if that's the case, please like and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Walt, K4OGO. Bring it on, son, and get ready. Let's get out there and play some radio. 73, my friends.